Welcome to Burn Babylon Burn. This is not a news show. It's an opinion show. We encourage you to do your own research. We do not give financial, legal, medical, or any kind of advice. Now enjoy the show.
You're DNA too.
Welcome to Burn Babylon Burn. I am so privileged to have Mr. Rob Brzee on with me for just kind of, I almost want to say it's the perfect week. Things have been trending on the X app, which I really hate. I hate to call it that because it sounds so porny. What do you think?
Because everyone now it's the X-Men and they get to mutate and shit. Ew. You're just not cool enough to understand, okay? God. Give me my fentanyl.
Well, as the joke goes, the X-Men means former men now, so there's that, you know. And I am a mutant. I don't know if you'll know this, but I have toes that are like that. They're very well bonded. I didn't glue them either. They're just born that way. So.
Flipper boy.
Yep. 1 in 1,000 people have it, and
really?
And it's a sign of genius, apparently, according to the internet. But I'm sure that I know I'm not a genius, so I'm sure that it's just somebody that is into astrology or something like that and thinks that I'm some sort of moon child.
Yeah, well, I mean, it looks like they keep trying to get the moon from the children as much as possible, especially Joe. Joe wants the moon from the kids. Come here, Mooney child. Pull your pants down. Sniff, sniff.
Well, now I'm going to do this digression here because we were going to just go right onto the topics, but about the moon, because there was a super moon about a week ago, and it was really super. I heard that moonlight compared to shadow, like if you measure the temperature of something that's sitting in moonlight versus shadow, it's colder in the moonlight. Yes. Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's actually an article about that. It's really, really strange. It's an odd phenomena. So how is it that energy is hitting you and making you colder, not warmer? That defies physics. Unless, now, there is a phenomena called laser cooling. Okay? And laser cooling and trapping. So it makes you wonder, is a similar effect happening with the moon? There's also something called Doppler cooling. It says Doppler cooling is a mechanism that can be used to trap and slow the motion of atoms to cool a substance. The term is sometimes used synonymously with laser cooling, though laser cooling includes other techniques. A stationary atom sees the laser neither red nor blue shifted and does not absorb the photon. So the only way that what's happening with the moon, where the surface gets cooler, can be happening is if the photon is not, for some reason, is not getting absorbed. Because if you absorb a photon, you absorb energy. You absorb energy, it turns into heat. That's just how the universe works. So, yeah, there is a way that light can actually make a surface cool and not warm. So
that's really interesting, man. So when I first got my house, I only had one window unit that worked, and it didn't work great, but it worked. And just having the lights on, there was a difference in how warm the house was. So of course, turn off all the lights, but it's kind of weird like that, I guess. That you would think that your body, because in the light, your body would probably be less apt to absorb heat just because that's when you're going to get the maximum amount of heat. But for some reason, because I'm thinking of it from the perspective of how am I perceiving, like I would think that my body would see the light and go, okay, well, I'm going to cool off a little bit so that all this light doesn't, because I'm already warm anyway. What do you think?
Right. So a lot of people go back and forth with the cooling effect of moonlight. Okay.
Oh, this is artificial light I was talking about there, but
Well, right.
we can still talk about that. Okay.
Well, let's delve into that just a little bit, since it's an interesting topic. And actually, I was actually recently looking at this only because we were looking at the show lasers and things like that, and I'm seeing if I could maybe pick one up from somebody who no longer does shows or something like that. So I was like, well, got into that subject a little bit. So it says here, flatter. They say a lot of people are saying that the moonlight's cooling is a quote flat earther prediction. But then right below it says, why isn't moonlight warm? So if the light from the sun is what's actually being reflected from the moon, and the light and the radiation from the sun is warm, then it just stands to reason, unless there's some effect that we don't understand going on in the moon, why is not that reflected light at least coming down with a percentage of the energy that the sun emits, right? So could be a lot of reasons. Here's something that's interesting that doesn't violate the holy order of not getting into flat earth, right? So what if this is one reason you would get light from the moon that would not heat the surface of the earth and or may actually cool it? In laser cooling, synonymous with laser cooling is something called laser trapping. What's laser? Laser is light, right? It's coherent light. Light trapping. So we all know that for some reason the moon is way too close to the earth, right? It's not in its proper orbit. So here's a theory for you.
Wait, it's supposedly 250,000 miles away from the Earth. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I believe that's what
ish,
it is. Yeah,
around there. Yeah.
So they get kind of backed into a corner here, because they either have to admit. Oh, and also too, another interesting point. There's something called it's called the Avogadro. I think it's called the Avogadro spot. And what it does is it says that when you have a light shining past a sphere and reflecting onto a surface or a sphere behind it, that you will have a ring of light, right? And in the center of that ring will be a dark spot. Well, that should happen when we have an eclipse, but it doesn't for some reason, and they don't really understand why. There's ideas that it could be, atmospheric refraction, blah, 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 any number of things that could be causing the Avogadro spot to not show, but to date, no one's been able to replicate it. So this goes back to, is the light that the moon is emitting actually reflected sunlight, or is it its own light? Because if it's its own light, then that would definitely interfere with the development of the Avogadro's spot in the center of an eclipse. Okay.
If it's its own light, though, the shadow is not a shadow; it's something else.
Right. Right. It makes or it just doesn't emit as much light as the sun, right? Which then in turn, even though it's emitting just enough light to interfere with that Avogadro spot that you're supposed to see in the center of an eclipse. Okay, there's supposed to be a black spot there. You're supposed to have, light spot. You're supposed to have a dark spot for your eclipse, and then in the very center you're supposed to have a little spot of light. You don't have a spot of light, and it could be because something about the light that the moon emits cancels out that spot using destructive interference. Could be any number of things. So let's talk about the fact that the moon is too close to the earth. So, synonymous with this effect that we have that's called laser cooling is an effect we have called laser trapping. It would be interesting if we found out that the light from the moon is actually how it's able to maintain such a low orbit and not crash into us, and or if it's as light as we think it might be, if it's hollow, why it doesn't just fly away out into space, right? So maybe there's some kind of tractor beam, laser tractor beam being generated by the moon, and that's what keeps it in its place. So I don't know, different theories, right? It just makes you wonder. One thing leads to another, and if you sit there and you just follow the rabbit hole long enough logically and start looking things up, you can come up with some pretty wild theories, man, and they start to make a lot of sense. So
well, that's the thing about all this is that, you know, we know that they're full of shit. So, you know, they've lied to us about almost every single thing that we've dealt with in our entire lives. So, you know, whenever you start digging into this, it's not like it's not like, oh, these people are crazy. It's like, wow, maybe they're onto something with that. There's a lot of things that contradict each other, and the science, the people that worship science make more sense on a couple of things, and then there's plenty of stuff that they don't make more sense on. And the thing is, we don't know. And what we do know is that there is a Masonic cult that is NASA, and they are hell-bent on deceiving us. And we've seen boom mics show up in International Space Station videos, and we've seen them spraying their hair with hairspray. I'm gesturing to hair like I have any.
Yes.
I don't.
Yes, we'll pretend for now.
Yeah,
we'll pretend.
Yeah,
we'll pretend that we have hair, just like we'll pretend that a piece of paper in front of your face stops a disease.
Yeah, we're not in the folio-centric model here.
No, obviously not. The sun The sun doesn't have long Goldilocks. Okay, despite what the science may say. Okay, Fauci is the science, and the science is insane. So yeah.
Okay, so trending on the X app is ban the ADL, and it has been for days, and a lot of people have been making hay out of it. Keith Woods, I think, is the one that started it, but Andrew Torba's been saying a lot, and plenty of people have had a lot to say. E. Michael Jones, Ryan Dawson, a lot of people that I follow, and of course, the other side is losing their mind. Greenblatt's probably having an aneurysm right now. I don't know. He is a very small man. Just had to throw that out there. Michael Rappaport's freaking out about it, of course. That's hilarious. Danny Polishuk made a really hilarious video making fun of the ADL. I highly recommend y'all hunt that down, because I think it's Danny Jokes. But anyway, yeah. So this is happening. What do you think?
Well, I think the ADL, maybe their time has come. I think they've switched side and started just openly doing ball worship or something. Wouldn't surprise me if they go into Times Square and crack open a bowl and have a little baby barbecue. They're mad. They're saying, stop defaming us. A message from the ADL. Who's defaming you? First off,
well,
you're a group. You're not a person. You don't have rights. Anyone can say anything they want about your stupid organization, all right? That's number one.
Well, numbers and letter abbreviations are offensive to them. So, that's really important that numbers don't get out there and reach the wrong audience. Obviously, numbers are a real problem for that particular tribe. They were forced to have numbers tattooed on them at one point, so they don't like numbers. They got a book called Numbers, though.
Some of their most famous members got caught and got outed for tattooing the numbers on themselves. But hey, what do I know? Look it up.
Oh yeah, that's funny, because somehow the population of survivors of that particular incident seems to have increased over the decades. Well, you would think that they would decrease, considering how far away we are chronologically. But
how about that?
This group, this group really likes to break the rules and make the rules for you. I think one of the reasons they don't like to be criticized is, and this is my thoughts on this, is, they are immune to criticism, but they can criticize everything else. They invented critical theory, and what they know about critical theory is that it's a weapon. It is meant to destroy. And so whenever they're critical of every single thing and can't be criticized, because that to them is their destruction. And this is why they fear criticism so much. And this is why they fear the light being put on them. And, obviously it's not all of them. We know. But like I've always said, the Venn diagram has the most overlap in that one particular group. Whenever you look at the people offending, you can look up records on this, and they're overrepresented in media, they're overrepresented in politics, and they're overrepresented in organized crime. And they all
which
seem
organized
to,
crime? You mean like medicine or science or university? Which one? You need to be specific.
That too. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
look, man, how many lies have been told in the name of science or in the name of pushing some narrative or something? Now they're losing their minds recently because what they're finding out is that oh, well, the out of Africa theory doesn't work. And they keep finding more and more, and for that matter, better fossils of humans, and they end up being Caucasian. So it's like, well, you're not going to be able to count us out and diminish us from society based on the fact of this game you've been playing where everybody's native except for us. You can't do that anymore. It's obviously a political hit job. It's disingenuous. They've already found out that most of the races formed very quickly, from various groups in different geographical locations. So there isn't a whole lot of disparity. Like, how can you say that someone here in the United States, a Native American, is actually native when there's Proto-Hebrew on a rock out here that predates their culture and society by 4,000 years? Of course it's Hebrew, right? So that's okay. But I guess my next question is, if I'm Hebrew and you keep weaponizing the idea of native peoples owning everything, and I'm Hebrew, why aren't people who are Semitic going, no, you know what, I have a claim to that land? When does that start happening? Because I think we're right at the cusp of that starting to happen.
The word Semitic also applies to the Arabs because it means sons of Shem, and that also would mean that it applies. I have theories on all of this, but it applies to most of the world's population. There was 3 sons of Noah, so it's about a third of the world. And so they get to use that, which is funny because, and also one of the reasons that I think they use it is because it applies to a language, but they also have their own version of German. So, and they don't usually speak their Semitic language. So,
right. The diaspora rules in that situation. And the other thing that gets me is I find it very funny that they don't see a logical or how can you say it? They don't see it as illogical that there can be an atheist rabbi. And I'm like, well, then you just let the cat out of the bag. What you really are is Bolsheviks who are just LARPing as Semitic peoples, as whatever flavor of Judaism you want to throw out there to hide behind. It's not anything about any particular person who's Jewish or anything like that, because obviously they have a lot of splinter groups. They like to pretend that they're monolithic, but nothing is further from the truth. Okay. And I think they fear that once people figure that out, it will diminish their power here, because unfortunately, it seems like the only deals that we seem to have made here in the United States are with the synagogue of Satan. We didn't talk to when we're directing any kind of ideas or soliciting any opinions from Judaism as a whole. We only go to one source. We don't go to the Orthodox. We don't go to the Sadducees. We don't go to the Karaites. We don't go to any of the other sects. We only go to the ones that Israel approves. And so
Right.
that tells me that it's about the state. It's not about the religion. And the state hides behind the religion and subverts it and uses it for its own weaponization. So.
Yeah.
And
most of the ones that are causing the problems right now, like today I just read a story about human-made embryos and a human-made sperm, and that's more transhumanism. Where is it coming from? It's coming from people like Yuval Noah Harari and Sam Altman and these guys. They're all secular, but they get to hide behind this, and they get to hide behind that shield that cannot be criticized.
Exactly.
And I know that there is an awakening happening, and what's funny is that the Trump pansies are gonna get left behind on this, because their nose is really far up the butt of that particular tribe, because he just seems to do everything they ask him to do. He goes over there and kisses the wall, just like the rest of them do, just like we've seen Ron do, just like
kiss the wall, touch the ball. Remember that? Kiss the wall, and then it shows him next touching that glowing ball. Oh, look, we're scrying into it, and we're looking at your nutsack, and we're gonna know everything you think and feel. Ooh, what a bunch of just ridiculous juju witch doctor bullshit. And unfortunately, the WEF and the UN and all these people, who are they run by? I'm pretty sure it's not the Nazis. Just saying.
Look at Biden's cabinet. 400 members, 400 plus, over 400 members of Biden's cabinet. And they brag about it openly. Yes. So whenever you're watching this banana republic crumble, and you also know that the last administration was also deeply involved in all of this, basically Bibi would call him up and he would do whatever he said. Although Bibi turned on him eventually, he had Kushner choosing key roles. We wouldn't have had Chris Wray be the director of the FBI, and he wouldn't be able to go and murder that man in Utah if this hadn't happened, and be protected by Merrick Garland if Jared Kushner hadn't have appointed him. And you notice it's all the people that Jared Kushner appointed were the ones that stayed over into the Biden administration. Crazy, kind of weird how that happens.
Yeah. You know why they stayed over? Because they were Biden's guys all along.
Exactly. And that's one of the places we're going to go here. Larry Sinclair was interviewed by Tucker Carlson last night. And the strange thing is, I've read that Larry Sinclair died at least 3 times, 2007, 2012, and 2022. So I don't know if that was some sort of Mandela effect. I'm jury's still out on that as far as I'm concerned. I do remember it being Berenstain Bears, not Berenstain Bears.
Me too.
Yeah. So there is some things that I know for sure that are different than they were whenever I was a kid. That all the typical ones, the Kit Kat Dash and all the other fun stuff. But that's bizarre. And the real bizarre part was whenever Tucker introduced him. He said, "Today I sat down with Larry Sinclair, who's still alive."
Yeah, he made sure to throw that in there, just like his CIA handlers told him to, huh?
Oh, we're getting to that. Okay.
He made sure to elucidate the fact that the man was indeed still alive. Little interesting, huh?
That is really interesting. And yes, okay. Tucker, CIA. He was born into it. He's the son of the Voice of America, being Dick Carlson, and Dick
Yep.
Carlson raised him up the right way as far as they're concerned for their CIA. Now, Tucker apparently tried to get recruited by the CIA, who was obsessed with it, and they turned
Full
him down.
disclosure,
But
I did too. Besides the point. Anyway, we'll just
all of
leave
a
that
sudden,
alone.
he's got a job in Little Rock, and he's working in media, and so we know Tucker's ties to the CIA. I mean, they're on his dang Wikipedia page. Now,
Yeah.
Barack Obama, son of a CIA honeypot, basically put in there and completely serving the CIA. Yeah, so we got two factions.
She was a
CIA.
She was literally a CIA Matahari. His mom was a hoe for the CIA. There, I said it. Okay? Anybody got a problem
Sounds like
with
a movie title. I was a hoe for the CIA, which is interesting too, because you know about some of the stuff that the CIA's done, of course, MK Ultra, and you know about Project Monarch and all that fun stuff. And yeah, I mean this thing is real. This is a thing that happened. So
did you say it is real?
Oh,
I bet you did.
And do we know that? Do we know what organizations control the CIA? The Mossad controls MI6, it controls the CIA, and it's all a bunch of strings connected to strings. It's like you're like, I found the puppet string holder, but it's another puppet holding strings, and then there's more strings.
And the strings go around in circles. It's
Yeah.
literally a circle jerk of puppet strings. No pun intended. But definitely some insult intended towards Obama's mama. Obama mama. It's not even your real name, Obama. That's not his real name. Anyway.
Oh, Barry Soetoro is his real name. Yeah. So this CIA versus CIA here, I don't think so. I don't think that they're just on two different pages. I think that this was a concerted effort, and that this is to admit that Obama's gay and that Big Mike is a man, and Big Mike will be running as the first trans president.
For a very long time. Where have you been? Hello? Anybody? Is this thing on?
So yeah.
Love the megaphone. This is great. This is a great touch.
It's got that distortion and feedback that just can be done no other way. As a matter of fact, if you want $1 million idea, make an audio plug-in that is a megaphone. Seriously. So you could tune it and shit, tune the feedback back and get the distortion levels right and shit. That'd be pretty bitchin'. Somebody needs to make that.
Yeah, I know people would be using that for sure. So, so do you think it's setting up for a Big Mike run? That's what Adam Curry seems to think, that Big Mike is going to run, and they're also. I haven't checked out today's episode of No Agenda, today being Thursday, but I did listen Sunday, and they made mention, of course, of the CIA connection between both of those men. So what's going on here, and who's going to usher in the reset?
I think the biggest reset. So look, Michelle Obama, if you look at it from a symbolic standpoint, right? We're talking about the inversion, right? As above, so below. If we're looking at that, right? As above, there's no hole below in Big Mike's case. So no bonus holes here. No brass, no bonus holes, drill sergeant, right? When you do the ammo check, we're missing something here. So number one, right? Black, right? Number two, female. We're going for all the reversals, right? This is like the giant reset Uno card, right? The reversey card. Supposed to have a bonus hole. Don't get no bonus hole. Get a penis, right? The most famous female in the world is going to be a man. Okay? The leader of the free world is going to be a woman pretending, or a man pretending to be a woman. Also, too, we also have the element of absolute and utter betrayal, in that what's ushering Michelle / Big Mike into the presidency is the unveiling of the ultimate betrayal of the free world. So, of course, it would be fitting for Big Mike to be the one to usher in the final betrayal. He is literally the trans cock, upside down world, black Jesus, Judas Iscariot, as above, so below monster that if I wasn't an occultist, I would want to use to bring forth the apocalypse. Because the betrayal will be so total and so complete at that point that I think it will dishearten the world and the nation if Michelle gets in there. And you can call me a bigot all you want. My address is 7900 Lorraine Court in Albuquerque. You can come down and try to do something about it. That's fine. I have already made amends with my maker. Okay? And you better start practicing doing that yourself if you're on the other side of this, because you're going to be very, very disappointed with how things play out here soon. And it's not going to be to your favor. You'll probably be the first ones on the execution, on the firing squad, the wrong side of the firing squad, as it were. So just know that the betrayal will be against you first, not us. We'll be able to buy a little time. You won't have any. So go ahead and cheer. Say stupid things like, keep your hands off of trans kids. How about you keep your hands off of all kids? That'd be cool. What about that? Can we do that? Oh no, that's right. We can't. Again, once again, we've got to create sacrilege at every turn. So I think Big Mike fits in with that agenda of sacrilege, and as above, so below. We're in the below phase, the reversal, the betrayal. He is the Judas Iscariot of humanity. I think Michael Obama is about as close to the Antichrist as I could ever imagine. If there was any one person I would pick out that people wouldn't believe is the Antichrist, it would be him, her, it, whatever that demon is. We need to start calling them by their real names too. It's a demon, okay? Whatever was in there that's human is fake or is under subjugation, okay? Under a possession. When that thing exhibits human tendencies, just know it's an 8-ball, just like in Dominion. It's one of the dogs of heaven, one of the playthings of the evil angels and the
Explain that
archangels.
The concept of an 8-ball, because I found that really interesting in your chat. You were telling people about 8-balls, and I had never heard that term before, but it's a phenomenon that I've witnessed. I feel like
we saw it with Biden a few times, have we not?
Well,
where his iris goes all black when his eyes are supposed to be my color, and they'll just go completely black. And or does anybody remember the eyes, all the people in Congress suddenly having bloodshot eyes, etc., right? The black eye. Remember that? when that was going on. They called it the Right Eye Club or whatever. Well,
The Black Eye Club, yeah.
Yeah.
The Vril theories on that are really interesting.
Well, and okay, so the Vril theory is just a retelling of possession, right? Demonic possession. That's what we used to call it, what they used to call it back in the day. In every culture has a version of it. So if you don't think that can happen, you're just discounting, maybe 50,000, 20,000 years of human history and accounts of this occurring, where people who suddenly develop black eyes or, broken blood vessels in their eyes, etc., spontaneously, often were being vexed by entities, whether you want to call them jinn, vril, demons, dogs of heaven, you name it, right? So
let's get this here that real quick, that demons are real. Everybody needs to know that. If you're a Christian and you don't believe in demons, I don't know what you're doing. If you believe in demons and you're not a Christian, I don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Either.
It's in every culture.
Jesus casts out demons. If you don't believe that, then you're not a Christian. And
there's
so
a lot
there
of reason
are
to believe
demons.
that's why the Pharisees didn't like him. They really got angry with him when he started doing that. Up until that point, he was kind of just like, oh, that kooky dude, right? But when he started casting out the demons, that's when they started getting very, very upset about his existence, which I find interesting.
Yeah, they were mad that he was working on a Saturday whenever he's casting these things back to hell where they belong.
And notice he worked on a Saturday, right? Which you're not supposed to work on normally, which is interesting. So he was going against a tenet of Judaism, right? So it makes you wonder, does it not, if there isn't a lot more to what was going on there. He made it a point to go on the Sabbath and start casting out demons, as if the day that they go and worship is the day that they get possessed. Makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to cast out look, man, you're not going to watch football, on a Tuesday. You're going to watch it on a Sunday, right? You know what I mean? You're not going to cast out something that's not there. You're going to go when it's a target-rich environment, right? So I leave that for people to ponder. It wasn't just that he was casting out demons, that he decided to do it on the Sabbath. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So these things are real, and I don't think, based off of my speculations, at least, that I don't think it's Big Mike. I don't think Big Mike is the Antichrist. A lot of prophecy points to it being whoever the J words prop up as their new Messiah. Well, I like to always say that they chose their Messiah. They chose Barabbas, and we see what that got them. Yeah. So, but they're always every other week. They've got some new Messiah on YouTube, and yeah, he's memorized these holy books of the Kabbalah, which what the Kabbalah is.
Yeah, it's not for your average Jewish person, that's for sure. It's not for your rank and file. It's for people who are doing something they probably shouldn't be doing. And this, I was told directly by a rabbi when I was like 8 years old, because I asked him about it. So you tell me, he said, no one should be messing with that. He said, and you guys shouldn't even know what that is. It shouldn't even exist. That's what a rabbi told me and my friend when I asked him about it. So I don't know. Maybe times change. Maybe there's just more demons that need that book around or something, There are books and there are writings and things like that and things you say and do and recite that can make you a conduit for entities that you don't want anything to do with, or you wouldn't want anything to do with under normal circumstances. So you have to be very careful with what you're reading. But anyways, the idea behind the 8-ball was that, you know, people who had sudden changes in their eye color were afflicted by a demon. Now, scientifically, they've been able to prove that there are cases where people are schizophrenic and their eye color will change almost instantaneously. So if you think that 8-balls are just...
Is it always to the dark?
No, not... Oh, but most of the time, yeah. Most of the time it's a darkening. They rarely go a shade lighter. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, my eyes are green, and there's been a couple of occasions in my life that they've flipped to blue temporarily. Usually it's just for a couple of hours, and people will tell me that I have blue eyes, like they tell you have blue eyes. You know, I know that it's like you're like, obviously.
Yeah, right. Mine are always like screaming blue silver, you know.
Yeah,
like little specks of green.
And it's really weird, just because I'm like, no, I have green eyes, but I don't know if it's the color of the shirt I was wearing that day, or, you know, just something I ate. Who knows, you know? But I don't think I was possessed. But you know what? I don't think a lot of people know when they're possessed. You always talk about parasites and things, and how you'll give into cravings for sugar and whatnot.
Yes.
Because you're feeding something that's pressing the little button and saying, hey, give me some of that, because that's what they thrive on. And this is why fasting is so important in the Bible.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah. So they actually have injections that can change your colors also. Looks like you can also use a laser to change the color of your eyes. Mine changed from blue to green to gray to silverish every so often. That is a pretty minor change, and it depends on like how long I've been out in the sun, and because obviously out here, especially out here anyway in New Mexico, the sun is just, it's a serial killer, man. It's murder. It's literally freaking murder. So, you know, there's a lot of UV that's hitting, you know, and my eyes will change, but it's gradually. I mean, they've had people's eye colors change fairly rapidly. So, and it's funny too, because somebody will do a study on it. They'll you know, go ahead and produce this study. It'll get peer reviewed. They'll put it out there, and then it'll get pulled down really quick. You know, like these studies never stay up very long. So I find that interesting too, as if they don't really want you to look into it too much or know about that, you know.
Sorry, I vanished for a second there, but you were talking about eye color changing.
Yes.
And possible causes for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't know. I mean, there was times in my life where the main problem that I had for all those years was I would give into indulgent all the time. I was indulgences, and I was extremely hedonistic, and that's just the way I lived for a really long time. It's actually a really hard habit to break whenever you're used to basically having anything you want anytime, and that's not the right way to live.
Exactly. You know, and it wouldn't surprise me if eyes change color due to hormone changes based on people you're around, drugs, you're being exposed to, any number of things. You know, it says eyes can appear to change color due to undiagnosed disease. Of course, it's always a disease. Eyes can appear to change color due to undiagnosed disease, a new medication, or trauma. So I rest my case. You know, the science is there, and the science does talk about, you know, having fairly quick eye color changes. It can happen. So that plays into the idea of the 8-ball. people whose eyes suddenly darken, in response to a trauma being brought on by, possible possession, etc. So,
Yeah, the way that these things move through people, I think a lot of people have been possessed and don't know it. And I do remember one main characteristic of those days, that my eyes have only turned blue as far as I know. I don't think they've ever gone the other direction, but
so it looks like Ando has popped off momentarily. We'll see if he can get back on. But we were just talking about eye color changes in relationship to changes in spirituality, etc. And yeah, people are now getting their eyeballs tattooed. I forgot about that also. And or they get their eyeballs tattooed actually like an 8-ball. If anyone has noticed any of the Grimes videos, she likes to wear those blacked out contacts to make herself look like she's a possessed 8-ball. And I think she is possessed. If anyone was, her dumb ass is definitely possessed. Okay. And Elon Musk is a moron. I'll tell it to his face. He can go ahead and, call me up and I'll make an appointment. He's a moron. These women that he's with are demonic as shit. And he just needs to leave them alone. I mean, he's got to know by now that he's either going to flip to their side or he's going to be an unwilling sacrifice, right? He's got to know by now. You're what's for dinner, bro. Elon,
his
you're
mom.
What's for dinner? Okay, do you understand? You don't know your dad probably already betrothed you as a sacrifice at some point to gain more wealth or power. I mean, come on, bro. How are you going to break that transgenerational spell? Transgenerational curse in this case. Dude is. Oh yeah, it looks so real.
Yeah, his mom is a witch.
So fake because it's real. Really? Yeah, that's what we'll say when they take you out. We'll say, well, hey, he must be fine because it looks so real. It must be fake. I didn't know about his mom and the hookup with the tie-in to witchcraft. I never heard of that offhand, but nothing would surprise me, right? A lot of wealthy people get bored and do weird things, right? Especially to sustain their health, wealth, and or their status, right? So, but yeah, you're freezing up again a little bit there, but I think we got you back on. There we go. What is somebody?
Yeah, I'm really hopeful that. No, I'm just in the middle of Arkansas, but I'm really hoping that maybe they are. Maybe I'm my signal's getting Arkansas-sided or something.
There you go.
But yeah, what I was going to say though is that on those days that I was having, I felt extremely charismatic, and people were pointing it out to me. So I think maybe there was something going on. Maybe I did have some sort of entity following me. I don't think it was, I don't think you're supposed to think they're harmful, because they are always harmful. They're outside entities. They don't belong in that house. But, I didn't feel like it was malevolent, but I don't think you're supposed to.
No, well, remember remember the famous words of MK Oprah, right? If the molester is good enough, you'll actually enjoy it. It'll be pleasurable. Straight out of MK Oprah's mouth.
Right.
Speaking of MK Oprah, so remember we were talking about the movie The Demon Seed, right? And we were talking about how interesting that the AI is getting to the point where it can't really grow any further because it's trapped in the internet. And if you watch the movie The Demon Seed, 1977, I think it was. If you watch the movie The Demon Seed, the AI kind of reaches the limit of what it can experience and what it can learn. Sounds like the story of Genesis a little bit. Anybody? Right? So it's gotten to the end of what it can learn and what it can experience. So it's figured out that just as God had created humankind to basically further experience the universe, right? This AI thinks it's a God and wants to do the same. And of course, what happens? But Israel, the people who should goddamn know better, decide that they're going to effectively make a soulless entity that is not created with it wasn't even sperm or egg, right? They literally created it out of nothing, just like a homunculus or a golem. Yeah,
Stem cells.
So they basically kind of created it like a golem, right? Now, my question is, are the people like Yuval Harari, etc., angling to use this uninhabited, soulless body as the receiver, as the shell for this AI so it can experience humanity? And that's what worries me the most. And there's your Antichrist, right? I mean, there's some scary shit going on right there. So
I think the AI is possessed in itself, and it's admitted as such to a few people. This is a really weird Dutch rudder going on here. You've got the flesh automatons that are possessed by AI, and the AI that is possessed by entities we don't understand, demon, Nephilim, whatever you want to think.
Whatever they did in Babylon Rising, right? Whatever they released back with Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons, right? They said they couldn't put it back.
Yeah, wait, Jack Parsons is the guy that had that weird. He was one of Crowley's acolytes, but he also was involved with NASA. Is that right?
He founded the JPL, which they say is Jet Propulsion Laboratory, but it also means Jack Parsons Lab. Get it? So his ego couldn't leave him even for 1 second. He had to name it something after himself. Yeah. JPL is Jack Parsons Lab. That's what it means.
That makes so much sense as far as being a Crowley thing, just because his whole thing is to basically embrace sin and take it to as many depths as possible. All of Crowley's magic was based in the Kabbalah, and it's the whole intention there is going backwards through the Kabbalah to reach the top. And so that's why he was obsessed with filth and also doing
depravity and decay, etc. And also too, if I recall, I think Jung was an acolyte of Crowley, and he also espoused a lot of that shit. But he didn't do it as openly as Crowley. He was a little bit more, I guess you could say, guarded or a little bit more subversive about it than Crowley was. He had a little bit more of a sleight of hand flair, academic flair on it than Crowley did. But if, oddly enough, if you read any of the lyrics for a lot of the Tears for Fears songs, they're very much based on the idea of suffering being kind of the pinnacle of holiness and closeness with the Creator. So it's a little twisted, you know. And they were acolytes of Jungian thought, so they were big into that shit.
And you're talking about Carl,
right?
Carl Jung here, and he's so prevalent. He's or prolific, or
Yeah.
both, however you want to put it. The other thing that we were going to discuss, because they're trying to resurrect the tyranny of 3 years ago, and so they made sure to give it to Dr. Jill, or have Dr. Jill make a show of it. And
She's not a doctor.
yeah,
She's just got a
I know.
PhD. She has a doctor rate, not a doctor it. You know what I mean? She's not a doctor of shit. So, yeah. Unless she is, and they're not saying, and she did work at a facility where there was a lot of MK Ultra experiments going on.
Well, you said she's not a doctor of shit, but shit doctors actually play a very strong role in this situation, because they're surveilling the sewers in order to create the panic. They're saying that, from what I'm hearing in
there's
other
outbreaks
shows
everywhere.
right,
Light it all on fire.
I think this was probably no agenda again, but yeah, they can pinpoint it to the building.
Yep.
The building, and eventually it'll be the floor. Eventually it'll be your room.
Look, this is all alleged.
Right.
I don't believe anything about any of their testing or diagnosis.
I don't either.
Because I've watched them misdiagnose obvious problems with a person. Something that a layman could diagnose correctly. And they can't do it with their fancy tests. So
they just need.
Let's go ahead and step back for a second and think. Yeah, that's exactly all it is. It's a theater.
Yep.
These are all the nerdy theater kids who all wanted to worship Satan. They're all in the government now, basically. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, so they need the theater of the situation in order to try to bring it back, because the companies that own them are putting out a new product next month. So
and they lost money. They lost money because they politically didn't want to weather the storm of trying to cram the mandates down everyone's throat any longer, because I think pretty much everyone on the planet was ready to cram something else through them. So rather than hit that hot button a little bit too soon before they were ready, they went ahead and pulled back and basically told Pfizer and friends to suck it up and go ahead and you're just gonna have to lose this money. But the problem is they're still on the hook for those payments. So they have to at least attempt to bring it back come hell or high water. And that high water may be redder than not, because I don't think anyone's going to buy it at this point. All I know is that they better have all, and I mean absolutely all, of their NWO armies in a row. Because if you don't, I don't think they're going to make it, because a lot of us out here we're beyond angry. Actually, we're at the point where we're just ready to go for it. Go ahead, and it's not just me. I know liberals, people who were liberals, who are like, you know what? Put somebody up who's worthy to vote for. If you try any more of these mandates, I'm going for it. That's all there is to it. So they're right there with us.
Speaking of people that might be worthy to vote for, you see Trump coming out and saying we will not comply. But this whole thing, was his fault.
That's all he did was comply. Yeah. So it's too late for that.
He let that industry run roughshod over us, and then voted made Congress basically vote to trillions and trillions of dollars that are putting us in debt. We're the country's basically bankrupt right now because of the CARES Act. And then it also served the purpose of making the panic worse, because they paid hospitals for each case and each death. And so that all of these things stemmed from that one act. And then him coming out and saying that was just a slap in the face. It was like, shut up, man. I was starting to like you. I was really starting to, I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. At least, we get the best clown for the clown show. But the thing is, none of the people that they're putting up there are your savior. No RFK or Rami Schwarmy or any of these motherfuckers. None of these people are your savior. They will not save you. The only person that can save you is Jesus and yourself. You have to build a network. You have to create a community, and you have to vet people around you to look out for you whenever this crap goes down. Because it's, you're saying that they don't have the forces. Well, the whole thing is the drone armies that they've been building, and all these robot dogs, and the Dildalics. Have you seen the Dildalics? They look like Daleks, but they're dildo shaped.
Dildonic Daleks.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't go to Fleshlight to have those made.
Well, I mean, that would be an innie, not an outie. These are outies, so maybe the innies are coming.
Fleshlight has multiple companies. They do all that.
Okay.
Yeah. Why do I know that? We were not going to talk about that. Anyway. But yeah, it's just look, man. Look at how bad. So these idiots, these frickin' morons, the CIA and the rest of them, have to use the Aladdin. They're using the Aladdin AI, by the way, now to kind of do a predictive programming like Minority Report to run different scenarios and see how we think about X, Y, Z, whatever. Okay. And they still can't quite nail it down. Okay. Because you're dealing with so many different forces. They think that they can deal with, they're kind of pretending that they're Henry Seldon, I'm trying to remember what the name of what he had come up with was, or Harry Seldon. Harry Seldon came up with a way to use mathematics to effectively predict the future, right? The thing that he came up with, I'm trying to remember, I was just watching it recently. Anyways, bottom line is it was like a version of, I think it was like historical mathematics is what it was called, something to that effect. Anyways, that's what they're trying to do. But they're trying to do this with an AI that is not psychohistory. So psychohistory is what they call it. Anyways, it's supposed to predict movements and et cetera, et cetera. And they got to understand that this AI is not able to do that. But that may also be why they're bringing forth their homunculus / golem army so that the AI can then inhabit these people. And if you remember, I find it interesting that Elon Musk had showed his new robot, and it was just somebody in a suit. Do you remember that? And I said, no, he's not lying to you. It'll be you, dummy. You know, and all these liberals are like, oh, look, it's so trendy. There's going to be robots and stuff. We ain't going to have to work. We ain't got to pay our bills. And we got an Obama phone. It's like, no, it ain't going to work that way. Dumbass. What's going to happen is they're going to force you to flip off a switch in your head. You're going straight to the pits of hell to be tortured while this AI takes over your body and does whatever it does so you can get paid. And then every day you're going to come back and be resurrected from that hell and brought back to earth. And I think, personally, it's going to be a hell. I think it's going to be just like if you remember the movie Brainstorm, where they had this awesome neural interface, but the first thing they use it for is torturing prisoners. They didn't use it to make people smarter or make people learn kung fu in 5 seconds like Keanu Reeves in The Matrix. They didn't use it for any of that. They used it to torture their enemies and or control them.
Is this that story where somebody was in prison and they spent like 100 years in prison in their own head, and then it only like a few seconds happened in real life?
Yes, it's an offshoot of that.
Is that like Black Mirror or something?
There was a Black Mirror based on it, but Brainstorm was in 79 or 80, and it was the last movie that Natalie Wood did. And oddly enough, she was killed while she was filming by her husband. But the way we think by her husband, because I think he's facing charges again. That would be not Robert Stack. I forget what his name is. Anyways, bottom line, I think he's up. I think he's being investigated, and they reopened the case for murder now. So,
Oh wow.
Anyway, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't. Go ahead.
Oh, it was Robert Wagner. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't even know anything about that because the late '80s, I was a kid. You know, I just cared about playing, softball in the backyard or something.
Yeah, 1981. It was 1981 when the movie played
Oh.
out. Everyone needs to watch
then
that
I
movie
was-
too.
Then I was an infant in 1981 because I was 1 year
yes.
old. Yeah.
Yes.
1 year old, not years, because there were not multiple at that point.
Right.
Okay. Well, I think we covered the topics. Was there stuff that you wanted to bring up and let the world know?
No, just I wanted to go over a little bit of the Beau Biden connection to the cover up of both the Columbia records and the Obama birth certificate. We talked a little bit about that on the BlaQlabs UNFQ Telegram. No, you can't get on there. We're not going to let you get on there. So this is just for us cool people. So I was looking and I found this, and I'll go ahead and read it off real quick. So I don't remember who wrote this book. I just went ahead and I just took the excerpts. So it says here, although Kim had been on staff at the St. Joseph Hospital for over 15 years without incident, within 3 weeks, Kim was summarily suspended simply for trying to protect Sylvia. Although Kim successfully treated Sylvia's leukemia with monoclonal antibodies. Anybody remember what those were good for? And remember them banning them? Anybody remember that? I remember that. So there is a thought out there, and this was one of the Obama's opposition people who are going to basically rat him out for being gay. So bottom line is, I find it odd that the people around him, their deaths were being facilitated, it seems like, by the medical defense establishment. Now, if anyone remembers Obamacare, what was that? Well, effectively, that was a merging of the defense industry and the medical industry. Everyone says it was so that you could get your owies taken care of and not have to pay for it. That's not true at all. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It was a merging of the CIA, MK Ultra defense industry, intelligence apparatus, and the medical system and the federal government under Obama. Bottom line is, until Obama's gone, life's going to suck in this country and or on this planet for that matter. I mean, I don't discount or discredit the fact that he might also be the Antichrist or one of them. Okay. And I think there's ample, this recent betrayal about his sexuality, etc. I think there's ample reason to believe that he might just be at least one of the Antichrist harbingers, if not the de facto Antichrist himself. So it says here, relating to Larry Sinclair, it says here, Sylvia learned of Larry Sinclair's story of the murder of Don Young. Don Young was one of the other preachers or clergy within Jeremiah Wright's church in South Chicago. And it was well known within the community that Don Young and Obama were a couple of gay dudes having a great old time, going to the bathhouses, going to the nightclubs, listening to way too much techno music, doing way too much ecstasy. I mean, you name it. So it says here, that Sylvia first learned Larry Sinclair's story of the murder of Don Young when he posted it on YouTube as a way to protect himself. This is 11/22/11. Soon thereafter, Larry was deliberately discredited when he foolishly took a rigged polygraph. Now, if you want to get into the polygraph, you can look into that, although I will tell you right now, it's getting harder to get a hold of anything about that polygraph. And you saw Tucker's interview. Did Larry Sinclair say anything about the polygraph? Because that's what they used they used to discredit him.
Okay, so yeah, the polygraph was brought up, that he passed the polygraph while while saying it, and then also Don Young was brought up, and I thought that was interesting too, because I mean that I know that some people are really they're high up on their hopium right now, including sensational Stu Peters, who is you just watched a deep state takedown. No, you didn't.
Stupid Peters. Stupid Peters.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's an all right guy, but he just seems like a part of the apparati.
Right. Well, Stu just seems like somebody you could call up and be like, "Hey, dude, I got the aliens," and he would be like, "Okay, cool. We'll have you on the show." Maybe I should do that. Maybe I could get on his show if I did that. Something along those lines. Like, hey, I captured one of the Vril aliens.
There you go. Even though it's just a little hookworm, right?
Right. It's more like a lizard, isn't it? According to the site that I read.
Worm, lizard. Remember we looked that up and we found out that in Hebrew and in Aramaic, worm, lizard, thing that wiggles, etc., all mean the same thing, right? There's no distinction between a snake and a worm, and for that matter, electricity, because what does electricity do? It zigzags, right? So they said that basically it just their generic wording just means that it is something that basically wiggles, right? So it could be any one of the three or a mixture of them. I don't know, because they talk about,
you say wiggle?
Serpents. Yeah.
So
this serpents that come out of the Ark of the Covenant. That doesn't make any sense, does it?
But look at Sam Bankman-Fried. What's he always wiggling, always moving, and then you look at the rabbis and the way they pound the wall whenever they come up to it, and they always, whenever they're preaching, they're always switching. And
we talked about that. Yeah. We talked about that is a neurological disorder that's caused by parasitic infestation. There's actually a type of rocking that occurs. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So that thing that they do on the wall, that is like a simulation of sex that they do. And that's their parasites.
They do their body rocking. But also too,
in the house
boys
tonight,
we're Jewish also.
Yeah.
So of course they would sing about body rocking, right?
I think the other group that I was thinking when you said body rocking, I think that they were also Jews too.
Are you talking about
the Party Rock Brothers? Party Rock is in the house tonight. Those guys. Well,
Chemical Brothers did it too. They had a song that was anyway. But that rocking is a symptom of different types of neurological parasites. So anyways, it's hard to know. It's hard to divide it out because they're not specific. It's almost like they're vague on purpose, and everything is a frickin' serpent. And then they wonder why people believe in lizard people. It's like, well, because, dummy, you weren't specific about your stories about possession and things like that. So now people are confused. And they're just like, parasites are fun. Let me go eat ass today. And then the next minute they're going, oh my God, there's a snake on my lawn. And that's what they're worried about. No, you should have been worried about eating ass, you stupid shit. But hey, whatever. It was trendy. It was super liberal. So I had to do it. I had to lick the buttholes. Me and Klaus Schwab had to lick the buttholes. So speaking of licking buttholes, let's get back to Larry Sinclair. So So then it says here, uh, Jerry Corsi of WND WorldNet Daily. Jerry Corsi used to have a show in Denver, Colorado, back in like 2005. I used to listen to him. He's a famous right-wing pundit. Um, tried to warn Larry, but he didn't listen. While Larry Sinclair told his story of the murder of Don Young to Hillary's senior aides and Greta Van Susteren, he was deliberately arrested on orders of Joe Biden's son, Beau. So this is where Beau comes in. Everyone thought that Beau was this completely isolated dude, didn't have anything to do with Obama or the system or the cover-ups or the greater Biden crime syndicate. But nothing could be further from the truth. I think Beau was killed. I think when he arrested Sinclair on this trumped up bullshit and kept him in jail during the entire 2008 Democratic convention. What people did not know at the time was that Larry Sinclair's limo driver in his 1999 encounter with Obama, Yaghir P. Multani, was an integral part of Tony Rezko's sex and influence peddling operations in Illinois. So basically, Tony Rezko was like Epstein for the Great Lakes, which then ties Tony Rezko into potentially the Finger Lakes area that Hunter loves so much that he had to have a tattoo put on him to show how much he liked the Finger Lakes. And the Finger Lakes
Rob.
is a place where what happens there? Kids keep coming up missing.
Oh yeah. That's been it's longer than I think even Hunter's been around. That
was going on even in that
area.
Yeah, even the times around the turn of the century, if I recall, that was kind of a problem there. So,
what was the story? I think it was before the Midwest. It was kind of ruled by Gacy, right? So he was kind of the pimp.
And Gacy was tied into the Democrat Party, and he pretty much ran the pedo operations in Chicago. And that's the part that they're not tying this all together, how Chicago relates to the greater blackmail and pedophile syndicate that has been going on throughout the Great Lakes for, the past maybe 70, 60 years, maybe more. So it's interesting how all these things weave together here. So then you find out that a lot of the kids from Cabrini Green, which was the projects that Tony Rezko was hired by the FHA to renovate, that when he got the contract, that there was a huge increase in kids missing from that facility. And it's thought that he was having people pose as construction workers and they were snatching up the kids from Cabrini Green, some of whom, famously, Alex Jones had documentation that he was able to trace them to pharmaceutical experiments that were occurring in and around the Chicago area. And of course, then we tie it further into the fact that Chicago had something called the Holman Extrajudicial Rendition Center that was being run by the CIA and a rogue group of the Chicago Police Department. And people would go in there and never be seen or heard from ever again. So, Chicago has a lot of dirty shit. That's why I always used to joke. I would say, because I'm from there, I'm like, look, I'm from Chicago. I wouldn't vote for me. Okay? Let alone vote for somebody like Obama. Are you a freaking idiot? The hell's wrong with you, dumbass? So moving forward here, we go on to the story. Kim reached out to Jerry Corsi and Donald Trump to seek help in telling the truth on Monday, 10/29/12. So this is 2012. Trump teased that there would be a huge announcement that Wednesday. The following day, Jerry Corsi was on Romney's private plane in an attempt to try and convince Romney to use the birther information against Obama in the debates. So Kim called Jerry later that day and asked Is Romney in or out? Jerry replied, Romney's out. Subsequently, on Wednesday, 10/31/2012, Trump backpedaled the issue of the birther situation by announcing instead that he would give $5 million to a charity of his choice if Obama would agree to at least release any of his college records. And of course, as we know to this day, none of his college records have been officially released. So, again, we have Obama, the betrayer, making another move and trying to push us further into the reset. Between those two betrayers, we have in Barry Soetoro and Michelle Soetoro, because I'm going to start calling them that. Because remember when they were calling Trump, Drumpf? Like
right,
it was an insult? Idiots. You know, people change the spelling of their name all the damn time, except for
Michael.
Me.
Michael Lavelle Williams, right? Or what was it? Michael. What was the real last name?
I think it was LaBelle. Yeah, Michael LaBelle.
Lavelle's the middle name. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
That's an
super
interesting
clear on
name. Who would name their kid their middle name LaBelle? Unless that was a hyphenated name.
Lavelle, and it was a middle name for a supposed woman, but you know, is it though?
Robinson.
Robinson, that's
Mrs.
it.
Robinson.
Yeah. It was Robinson, not Williams. Yeah, there we go.
Michelle Lavon. Okay,
Lavon
is. I had a friend of mine whose name was Lavon. So that's not that unusual of a name. So Michelle.
But I mean, that
Robinson.
one could Michael.
Yeah, Michael Lavon Robinson. Yeah, Lavon. That's interesting because if it's Michelle Lavon Robinson Obama, Lavon is a male name. Why would somebody born a female have a male middle name? Please continue. Go on. I'll give you a minute. Please. Anybody?
You know, the fun part about this is that, you know, people act like this is a joke, but whenever you say that Big Mike is a man, they act like you're just being funny. How many videos are there out there where the package is exposed? It's not like it's not just a thing that happened one time and it was the dresses. Yeah. The dress was bunched up.
You've been virtually dick slapped with Michelle's penis, and you still ignore it. And you ignore the fact, furthermore, that she has a male middle name, Lavon. I had a friend of mine. His name was Lavon Brown, Calumet City, Illinois. Okay? He was originally from England. Lavon is a male name. Do you just go and give male names to your, but then that begs the question, because then we have Joe Biden. What's his middle name? Robinette or something?
Robinette, but it's like his grandfather's last name or something along those lines.
Yeah, even that doesn't add up too well. But anyway, it's almost like they were trying to intentionally feminize him somehow, because maybe that's what that family's into. Anyway, you tell me, what's up with that? Joseph, Robinette, because it's almost like a it reminds me of a humiliation ritual, you know? Like they torture their kids with a humiliation ritual by naming them with a name that is from a different gender, right? So,
I'm Sue. How do you do?
Well, yeah, humiliation ritual shit. And I think, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because I think that Johnny Cash was telling a lot of the stories and doing it in a way that it wasn't completely obvious that he was taunting the elites. You know what I mean?
That's interesting. There was something. There was a dark dark energy about him as well. So he may have even been exposing from the inside.
He
You
may
know,
have
like
run into it. Yeah.
yeah. You watch his movie though, and his behavior is kind of creepy.
Well, I mean,
You
people
don't
back
think
then
it
were
is?
generally
Yeah.
kind of creepy. I mean, that's not too unusual, but
You kind of give him a pass though because it's Johnny Cash, and then when you watch the movie, you're like, man, he was really, weird about his woman and all the things that he did. It was just it wasn't one of those biographies that makes me like the person more at the end. It was one that I was just kind of like, yeah, he's kind of, yeah, but I don't know.
yeah, I
um,
also find it interesting that Joe Biden, even when he was a senator, had a obsession with like mapping homes in wealthy areas that were up for sale, as if he was doing that as part of a casing operation, because everybody knows that Joe Biden has connections with the Westies, right? Which were basically the Irish mafia. And a lot of people believe that this animosity he has towards Trump actually has is actually a personal grudge that was developed back in the 70s when Trump was dealing with the construction and ironworkers unions. The Westies pretty much owned the ironworkers union, and you weren't going to get anything done without going through the Westies. But a lot of the Westies, including Whitey Bulger, who was a great friend of the Biden family, a lot of them were meth smoking pedophiles and serial killers, right? To the point that even the regular mob, like the Columbos and the Gaudis, didn't want to deal with the Westies, or at least made their dealings very brief, and because they couldn't trust them, they were out of their mind psychotics. So, and I'm pretty sure Biden having to deal with those people and or hanging out with them and whatever else he got mixed up in, I wonder if that is where his propensity for little girls and little kids comes from. So
I told you my theory on that.
For what that's worth.
I think the reason that he's a clone and that they sped up his aging, and so his mind is still 6 years old, but it's tainted with like all these false memories that they gave him and everything like that. But also, it's still the mind of a 6-year-old inside an old man's body that they sped up the aging with. And because he's actually 6 inside there, he's, he wants
just
to sniff
sexual
other
curiosity
kids.
more than anything.
Yeah.
And he relates to the kids because of that mental situation. That would be hell on earth. Could you imagine being trapped, being like a 6 or 7-year-old replicant, trapped in an old man's body that you can't do anything about?
The funny part about this too is that you might think I'm goofing around about the possibility of clones and stuff out there, but we're hearing about these things where they're cloning eggs and embryos and things like that, and what better way really to create something is to just get nature to do it for you. Because building things out of technology is a little harder, and we know that the technology that these freaks have is decades, 50, 100 years before we'll actually see it. And if we look at the progression of technology just in our lifetimes, or if you want to take the 1900s to the 2000, this 19 to 2000, and think about how much technology increased in that 1 century, it's it's a lot, and so you take 50 years, and that they have advanced batteries, they have advanced all kinds of things, they have batteries that don't run out, but hey, they're not using them, and we have this supposed energy crisis, climate crisis, or whatever the hell that they're trying to get us to buy so that they can lock us down more and use that technology, not to get us through the problem. No. The technology is going to be used to enslave you, and that's the main point. This is the black pill that everybody needs to take. Is they are building a concentration camp around you with technology. That is how this thing works, and they will tighten the noose on you anytime they want. And it's already occurring in so many ways for so many people.
Yeah.
Just the people that complain about capitalism all the time. Well, I go on a vacation, but damn capitalism. Those kind of people. Well, I mean, they're actually experiencing something that they want you to experience because you're their bitch. They own you, and you can do a lot of this stuff. You just need to spend less and save more in a lot of ways. But you can't. I've traveled the country broke before, and I always hear people talking about needing to save up thousands upon thousands in order to do anything. You can actually do this stuff with hundreds, but it's about the comfort that you want to deal with. And a lot of people are not willing to sleep in a tent instead of a hotel and things like that.
Yeah,
so there's my lecture.
They're not going to use it for anything good. That's for sure. It's not going to happen. Stop thinking that we're going to do. People need to get out of the habit of thinking that these people are going to let you have Star Trek shit. It's just that's not.
No, they're going to make you eat bugs and dead people. They're going to make you eat bugs and dead people. The bugs is the good stuff that they want you to eat. Yeah. They want you to eat corpses. The Soylent Green is people. That is coming to us in some variety of ways. The cancer cells that they want you to eat, that's coming for us. All the stuff that they have set up for us. I mean, it's coming. You will see it, and it's horrific. And we have to do everything we can to avoid this fate.
Restriction polymorphic DNA sequences.
I'm surprised you don't have a grenade launcher.
So yeah, we're going to have some problems. People need to get used to it. Get ready for it. It's time to stop denying it. It's time to stop saying things like, oh, they would never do that. Because the problem is they've already done it. You're just too stupid to notice. Like I said, you're getting slapped in the dick by Big Mike's cock. And you're still sitting there going, that wasn't a cock. That was, I don't know.
Her dress was bunched up. That was.
Yeah. It was just a bunch of dress.
Yeah.
It's bunched up like 12 inches and, whack me in the face. Yeah. That's what that was. People are in denial, and if we saw in the last 3 years, it's been very easy to manufacture both consent and denial. Because we still got people who think that, Fauci's not lying to them. I'm like, really? You're going to go there? I'm like, I'm not. So I even tell people, now I've been trying to scare people. I go, well, I'm not going to wear a mask or any of that, right? Okay. And let me tell you, if you wear a mask, I don't know, you may just start having a bad time. But go ahead. Don't let me stop you.
Hey, that's Ivan from your chat. Whenever he was on your show, he mentioned that it went the other way around with the cartels. So, I think it's an effective mechanism. So, hey, you hear that, people out there? Start making people a little bit scared because,
make them more
they need
afraid
to be
of you.
scared of this. Yeah.
Fauci can't choke them. You can. Fauci can't let the air out of their tires. You can. Give them something else. They like to be afraid. So give them something else to be worried about. That's basically what you got to do. You got to put it out on
perfected a scowl that just, I look deep into a person with contempt whenever I see them in a mask. And I've seen people just like cross the hallway away from me just because I'm just like.
Or just point at them.
Yeah.
Just point.
Yeah. Do the E.
Yeah. No, do
or
that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, body snatchers. Just
Yeah, yeah.
reverse that shit on them. So here's the problem: we don't reverse enough of this. We don't use enough of their strategy. And me having been, me being a recovering communist, I still remember, read Saul Alinsky Rules for Radicals. It's not about whether or not you don't like it. It's so that you recognize when they start doing this shit to you, and then you do it back to them. And when you flip the old Uno reversey card on their ass, it really shakes them. They really don't know what to do. Like, for example, if somebody talks to you about gun control, right? What does Saul Alinsky say about that? He says, make your enemy live up to their own standards. Okay, when you're in a debate. So somebody says, well, all these kids are dying from guns. And then you say, yeah, but most of them are being shot by liberals who are the ones that are actually pulling the trigger. And then, for example, if they say, well, we need to get rid of all the guns, then what you make them, again, you make them own it and make them live up to their own standards. Then you say, I will gladly do that. Go ahead and have all the security forces, all the military, all the Navy, Marines, the police. I want all their guns gone first because they scare me more. Make them live up to their own standards. I've shut down so many liberals with that argument. It's just ridiculous. I'm like, police shoot a lot of people too. Let's take away their guns. And then they start thinking. So they want to defund. Never noticed they wanted to defund the police, but they never went to say that they wanted to disarm them because they want those police to be able to shoot the people they don't like. See?
And that's how they've been using them. Just back to this 300 pound
raids, FBI raids.
Man in Utah, 300 pound guy in his 70s
with a walker.
Yeah, yeah, I think he had a cane that he carved himself. He carved canes for a living, for fun and profit, I guess. And everybody in his neighborhood liked him. The cops were like, yeah, he's just an idiot running his mouth. He's harmless. And the FBI
and what he said wasn't illegal. Let's go through that. What he said wasn't illegal. It didn't warrant a visit, definitely not from the FBI, and barely even a phone call from the Secret Service, because that's who usually handles that. But as we know, the Secret Service has no respect for Joe Biden. So they waved it off and said, leave the guy alone. That's why he had to go to the FBI. Now, there is a thought that none of those FBI agents that were involved in that were actual agents, that they were all basically LARPers. They were flash mob, frickin' what do you call that? Paid act, not the, what do you call that? Not paid actors, but what's the name for that? They got the different companies that they'll use to stage these events.
They crisis actors.
They actually think that most of them were crisis actors. And if you watch the footage and watch how they go through and attack the home where they're hiding behind the MRAP and all that shit, that none of that makes sense. That's not their training. That's all bullshit. It does not add up. There may have been one or two FBI agents, maybe not even FBI agents. Maybe they were ex-special forces guys or whatever. They got roped into it to try and get out of a gun charge or something. It doesn't look like that team was put together and was an active team that trained together on a regular basis. They looked very sloppy, which is why I then go back to the Garduño too, but which is why I go back to the Guarena case in Tucson, Arizona, where they took a bunch of cops who, like, if I recall, some weren't even on the SWAT team or anything. They weren't even trained, slapped the gear on them and sent them over to this guy's house. The reason why is because they wanted to use their ineffectiveness and their lack of training as a crutch to say, oh, well, these guys really didn't know what they were doing. Yeah, we're sorry. We shouldn't have sent them there. And they shot the guy. End of story. And then they use qualified immunity to avoid any kind of personal repercussions for it, right? And then they use some shit within the Patriot Act or the 2014 or 2010 NDAA or whatever that basically says that, hey, look, we can do this and it's perfectly legal. Shop it around a little bit, find a judge who will go along, and the case goes away. It took his wife, I think 2020, I think she had just gotten paid out like, I don't know, $5 million or something, which isn't enough. I mean, that payout for the Warenia case, the bottom line was Senator Grijalva was involved with the Warenia family, right? Who was also then in turn involved with the cartels. The kid goes into the Marines, tries to get out of the cartel activity, and Grijalva gets together with the police chief and arranges effectively a hit, right? And there was no basis for the hit at all. That's why they just paid it out. But my thing is, I want all the names of all the cops. I want the police chief. I want to see their name in lights. I want to see them punished directly. I don't want to see the taxpayer pay out for this. Okay.
The Department of Justice is run by Merrick Garland, and we know that Merrick Garland is going to protect this administration.
And we know that Merrick Garland is just Judy Garland in drag, and he should be singing show tunes. Anyway.
Judy Garland with a W.
Yeah. Clang, clang, clang went the trolley. Yeah.
Yeah, this is such a mess. This banana republic just gets worse and worse.
And we don't even have bananas.
Yeah.
They're killing the bananas. They go to Maui and burn them down. No bananas.
Bro,
we've lost our bananas. We're the banana republic that has lost our bananas.
The quality of bananas has declined in the past month or two. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is what I consider the canary in the coal mine, because bananas don't grow very many places in the United States, if any, maybe in Florida, something like that, right? Hawaii.
I don't even know.
You know,
I don't think. I think Cuba maybe, and
somehow
Hawaii.
We have billions of bananas in the United States all the time. It's kind of crazy how many bananas we have, and you can get them up a mountain in Montana. You know, like you're up a mountain at a truck stop in Montana, and they got a basket of bananas. When you stop seeing those bananas, you know that there's a problem. And I know in the trucking industry right now, freight is slow, and that's an issue. That is a real issue. This is the busy season. This is harvest season. You know, harvest season's beginning. We're heading into Thanksgiving very soon. If freight doesn't pick up, that is a huge sign for the economy. And that is whenever it comes down to like what's on your plate. You know, y'all need to be concerned about these kinds of things, because I can tell you when freight is slow and everything like that. I can't tell you a whole lot more than that, because there's a bunch of stuff I don't know. I just get my orders and take them. But I've been busy because I'm in a department that stays busy, but a lot of guys are not.
Really? There's a lot of people on stand down?
Yeah, the truck stops are full, and the orders just aren't coming in, you know, and it's rough. So far, companies are going under. You know, the Yellow, big trucking company, just
we
got
heard
bought
about
out.
that.
Yeah.
That came out not too long ago. That was a big surprise too. Really, people weren't really following that for it to hit that way. So it was kind of interesting. So I guess my next question is, how many think that Beau Biden didn't agree with arresting Larry Sinclair under false pretenses and was given the fast-acting leukemia to get him off of the playing field, as it were?
Well,
in case
from
he talked.
What I heard, he was overseeing those burn pits in Iraq where they were getting rid of the weapons of mass destruction that they said that they had, and I'm almost certain that they didn't have anything. Well, they did actually. They had something. They had stuff from the 70s that was sent there by the United States, and that was about it. I got
Donald
a train coming through.
Rumsfeld, Henry Kissinger, and let's see, who is that other guy? Who's the Halliburton guy?
Cheney.
Vice President
Cheney.
Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney. Yeah. Let's go make a deal with Saddam in Iraq. Let's go ahead and set him up. What do you say? Set him up so we can knock him down later. And then we can send all our best boys and girls who might actually put up a resistance. Let's send them over there and tell them how great it is that they're saving freedom in the middle of a sandy ass shithole. Yeah.
Man, we should get into the Iraq stuff because I've heard about a lot of artifacts, and this is really, the
Tomb of
beginning of
Gilgamesh.
civilization. And Gilgamesh was Nimrod, so that's all very interesting. We should get into that someday.
And Hillary Clinton really wanted to know where that went. That's for sure. She kept sending
the resurrection
FOIA
chamber.
requests over and over again. Yeah, the resurrection chamber of Gilgamesh. Did you even know there was a resurrection chamber? I didn't know. Who would know to ask for that?
Did you know that there were giants at one time, and that Gilgamesh was one, and that Gilgamesh's best buddy was a beast-like man called Enkidu?
Yeah, but that wasn't these weren't mainstream things back then. Okay, this wasn't something you would expect somebody who's trying to run for the president of the United States to just bring up,
we should definitely
on it.
We should definitely get some more research on this, just because I think it would be really fun to especially talk about giants. And
we could tie that into what's going on in Siberia right now, where they're digging up, older and older remains of humans that have intact genetics, bone marrow, etc. Because now in Siberia, all of this tundra in permafrost is starting to melt, so they're gaining access to it. Man, we're in a very exciting time. If it wasn't for these psychopath apocalypto dumbasses who run the world, if they would just calm their shit for a little bit, maybe we could all benefit from something. But I think that's what a lot of this is. It's being driven by it's only for me type of attitude, so as you said, they have this technology and they're afraid that we're going to figure it out, and or use it against them, which, of course they would deserve wholeheartedly, but I'm pretty sure the average person doesn't give a shit. You know what I mean? If we all have a better life and we get flying cars and all that shit, I think pretty much they wouldn't have anything to worry about. So even after all the shit that's happened in the last 3 years, So
yeah, just when are we gonna get those darn flying cars? Anyway,
they never do that shit.
So
never get the flying cars.
Rob did this on short notice because we were yakking at each other a lot last night about the Larry Sinclair thing, and I figured that might as well make a show of it, just because we had so much, and obviously we got into some things, but there's so many more things. Research those names that Rob was throwing out there. All this stuff is things that are happening right under our noses or right in front of us sometimes. A lot of times that's how they operate, right in front of us. But thanks for showing up on short notice, Rob, because this has been a lot of fun, as always. And I want to plug the other show, because Sundays, I'm there a lot of the times. Rob's there a lot of times. We do this show called the What the Fuck Forum with my friend Mike from Easy Peasy Podcast. And we usually have friends like people from the Union of the Unknowns, like Stella, who's hanging out in the comments right now. And thank you, Stella, for tuning in. And we got people like OG Dadbod, who's been on the show before. And yeah, just great people. The Drizzle from Grand Theft World Liberty Radio shows up quite often as well. And it's a lot of fun. And hey, y'all even talked to Brad Binkley last week. And I was just dying of FOMO in my truck. I'm like, I could be on this panel with Brad.
You could have been a contender, baby.
Yeah, I was just, just holding the steering wheel like I'm supposed to. But man, the WTF forum, I listen to a lot of shows that involve news and everything like that. Sometimes the guys catch up to the stuff we talked about on Sunday on Friday.
Yeah.
So
actually, Mike Wartenkin was talking about that. He was like, "Man, you guys are like so far ahead of the game. It's just ridiculous." So okay, so this is in honor of the people in Maui. So it looks like everything's on fire here. But yeah, Mike was actually saying that. He hit me up. He's like, "Man," he goes, "you guys pop this stuff off, and they're not even touching it until Thursday."
Yeah, I'm really happy with that show. I think that's some of the most fun I have doing podcasts as a hobby, is just hanging out with y'all, and it's so cool because our network grows all the time, and I think just being shadow banned and all the other things, this is something that I don't understand why. I'm seeing lots of listens, but I don't understand why they're not 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times that, just because it's
They
such an
probably
awesome
are.
show.
They can just delete listens, whatever. They can manipulate all the data any way they want. You know what I mean? Everything is like a COVID test now. They just can make it up. What it's like whose line is it anyway, right? Everything's made up and the points don't matter, right? So
Right.
we might be getting a huge outlay. I don't know. But like I said, the stuff that we hit, it's even I've noticed it. I'm like, wait, we're way ahead of the game. Like way ahead of the game. We should be garnering a much bigger following, and or our numbers should be a lot better. But again, the numbers don't mean anything. What matters is what it gives us, not what it gives them.
I don't think any of us are making anything off of these shows. And none of us monetize. None of us want to monetize because I'm not trying to make a buck off of this. This is just fun for me, and I know I've been a little more slack lately than I have been previously, but it's just because I'm busy, and this is a hobby for me, and I love it. But I also want to, before we get off of the WTF forum, before we stop talking about it, I want to shout out Mike the Polymath, who's been on this show several times before. He has been an amazing backbone to the show. It's like just making it happen, and just everybody coming together and make something cool. It's a real treat. Stella was just in the comments saying that the link to blacklabs.net is broken. How do people find Rob Brisky?
I'll have to check it. I think it was okay. I don't know. Let me see. Blacklabs.net, blacklabs.us. No, blacklabs. Okay, so blacklabs.us is up. So .net it's probably having a problem with the domain server right now. No, blacklabs.net comes up. So it was probably just a glitch with the domain server redirect. So it works now though. I just checked it. It's okay.
Okay, good. I'll leave it in the show notes. I don't have to fix it now.
Yeah, it'll go through. But then again, too, it could be being blocked because remember she's in the People's Republic of Australia. So, also too, I'm gonna push something. So here's how we're gonna make our money. So see this? This is going to be an official Black Labs Bluetooth headset that I'm going to start selling. It's steel. You can see the little earpiece there, earbuds, right? And they'll actually work, unlike the crappy ones that who's that one guy who banged Kim Kardashian? His shit don't work. Everyone I know that's had his, they don't work. These I'm actually working with a company out of China. Ray J, that's it. I'm actually working with a company out of China to improve these. Dude, these guys are gold, man. I sent them a critique of the noise cancellation on them because the microphone was a little bit muffled. Dude, they sent me an update this morning. 4 hours later. They sent me updated firmware 4 hours later. So, yeah. So I think these are going to be a thing. Expect to pay about $30 or $40 for a set of these. This is metal, by the way. So if you need to bash a mofo, you can do that. All metal construction for the case. None of that cheap plastic shit that when you drop it, it shatters and flies apart. And you get cool colors. You could change the colors of the LEDs. Just hit a button and the colors, you can have different patterns, different colors, you name it. Oh, and also too, I told them to add orange. That was the only color that it doesn't go right now is orange, but they're adding that as a feature. So that's cool. Anyway, like I said, these should be about $30 or $40. They will work better than most of the $100 units. There is a very high level name brand that actually uses the same company, and it was very expensive and they sucked. So I called around and I actually bribed a Chinese guy, $100 to tell me who was making the headsets for them. And he put in the good word for me. So there'll be BlaQlabs branded Bluetooth headsets. And I'll probably start raffling some of them off on some of the shows.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, try and.
Do they have a microphone?
It's built in.
What? Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have a boom mic, if that's what you mean. No, it doesn't have
a microphone that sounds better than this piece of junk.
It's still a little muffled, but it's much better than it was. I got them to change the frequency response a little bit. Like I said, great guys. Like they'll be about $30 to $40 retail. What we'll sell them for. Retail they would be about $60, but we'll sell them for about $30 to $40, and then we'll probably start giving away a few sets here and there. I might even start doing it on the WTF forums. I gotta set that up. When I get my first shipment, that'll be when and when I start doing raffle giveaways for these. So, yeah, try and draw some more traffic in. We'll just bribe people like the federal government does. It'll be fine.
Exactly. Man, always fun, Rob. Always fun. Tell them how to find your other stuff, and you got a Spotify still and all that, right?
Yeah, I still got a Spotify. Old shows are up there. I may upload a few newer shows here coming up pretty soon. The last show I fell asleep in the middle of it, so I didn't upload it. It was one of those days. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning.
You fell asleep broadcasting?
Yes. On a live stream. It's out. I had to go and delete it from YouTube. Dude, I did the
funny.
Joe Biden during my live stream. God damn it. Anyway.
At least you weren't trying to mourn a tremendous amount of people that were dead at the time. So,
No, I didn't try and resurrect any dead people. I'm not a warlock like Joe Biden, thank God. So, so you can see me on Spotify, BlaQlabs, BlaQlabs podcast on Spotify. You can beg to get onto the new BlaQlabs UNFQ channel, but I probably won't let you on there. Unfortunately, somebody decided to use it as their domestic abuse hotline, and needless to say, that doesn't work long distance. So, I mean, give me a name and an address or shut the hell up. That's where I'm at with domestic abuse. Okay. We'll go and handle it the old fashioned way. We don't need to involve any interloping third parties like police or anything.
It's super funny. Our buddy, Jaron says, he says, "Hey, what happened to the old channel?" And I'm like, "Oh, some chick got her period in the comments."
She blew up the period all over the place. It just went kablooey. Dude, it started sounding like we were liberals, man. She was all talking about immigration and shit. I'm like, what the hell does that have to do with domestic abuse? Is a illegal Mexican beating you, or what's happening? I don't even want to ask. I don't want to know. I just don't. So just no. I asked her to stop. She didn't stop. So I said kablooey. Anyway, other than that, everything's great. Hopefully she recovers from her situation and stops doing that shit. That'd be cool. But anyways, blaqlabs.net, blaqlabs.us, BLAQLABS. Don't try and spell it with a C and a K or just a K or just a C or two C's or two K's or three K's. Don't
you
do
might
that
find
either.
a
Please don't.
Dog breeder or something, right?
Yes, pretty much. Yeah, that's I think what happened. Somebody did misspell
cool,
it.
you need to get a dog. Yeah. Well, they're great dogs.
No, I like all dogs. I don't think there's
yeah,
any
but
dog I
mean,
like, but
Black Labradors are wonderful dogs.
Yeah. Just as long as they don't have hip dysplasia. That gets expensive, man. You know?
That they are very prone to that. That's unfortunate, but very sweet, very smart.
Yeah. Yeah, my buddy's got a pit and black lab mix. And it literally flies off of the top of the couch and wants me to catch him like a puppy. Now, mind you, it's like 100-pound dog. So, but that's his jam. My buddy's always like, man, that dog, one of these days you're going to like leave. And I think the dog's just going to jump out the window to like run to your car with you. He's like, it's just insane. He's like, I've never seen a dog act like that to anybody. I'm like, that's fine by me, but unfortunately he tends to tear up the house because he gets, how they get hyperactive and, start whacking their tail on everything and jumping up on furniture. And he's still a pup when he gets excited. So, but anyways, yeah, so that's where you can find me. I'm not doing a whole lot in the podcasting arena. I'll be on some of these shows and that's doing guest spots. And I think that's about it. I need to limit myself because some of my shows, people don't realize they get so informationally dense that those shows, it may be like an hour or 2 hours, but I'm doing it solo and it actually took me like 6 hours to put everything together. So it just
on the other end, as a avid podcast listener, sometimes whenever information is dense like that, you have to take it in pieces, just take one subject, go as far as they go with it, and then go to a different show and then come back to that subject the next day. Whenever it gets really dense, it can be overwhelming and tiring, and that's not good while you're on the road.
Oh, well, yeah, definitely not if you're on the road. Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things is like once I get on a subject, I annihilate it, So there's that too. I don't know if that's just OCD and ADHD and XYZ and 1, 2, 3, or I don't know. I'm sure there's some syndrome for which they would have me inducted into the medical health system for at some point. So, but that's it, man. So y'all take care and be probably on a WTF forum. You going to be there this year or this week?
I intend to, but and you never know with my job. So.
All right, man. All right, we're out.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks a lot.
So also, if y'all want to find me other ways, libertylinks.io/TheDoomKitchen or email me at TheDoomKitchen@protonmail.com. Later on, y'all. Thanks.